Hello everybody, welcome back to E Cubed. Today we're going to study a word that we studied a few days ago. Do you remember we studied bound to verb? You're bound to have a good time. You're bound to have fun. Great expression. You are absolutely going to have a good time. You're going to have fun. Well, today we're going to change it a little bit. Bound to verb? No. Bound to noun. Now remember, when we say noun, it's almost always a or the or an noun. We need that article, right? And another form is binding. And binding here would be an adjective. So we say this, a binding contract, a binding agreement. Okay? Bound to a contract. Bound to an agreement. Bound to the contract. So what do these mean? They mean the same thing. They mean tied to, okay? Tied to. So it means if you have a binding contract, or if you are bound to a contract, that means you are tied to the contract. You have an obligation to the contract. You signed the contract and you must fulfill the contract. You have to do everything in the contract. Okay? So if you sign a binding contract, you are bound to that contract and you are bound to be stressed. Wow, that's a big sentence. Listen again, write it down, but for now, let's jump to a dialogue. I hate this internet company.
Switch.
I can't. I signed a binding contract.
For how long?
I'm bound to it for 3 years. There you go. He's bound to the contract for 3 years. It's a binding agreement. He cannot break it. So he's having stress. He's very stressed out because he's not happy. So remember, if you sign a binding agreement, you are bound to that contract. And you are bound to be stressed out. I hope not. Some contracts are good, but some contracts can be very stressful. So I hope that this is clear. I hope you understand what these mean. Binding and bound to a noun means tied to. You have an obligation. Bound to verb means you will probably experience the verb. Is that clear? I hope so. Leave an example down below of when you signed a binding agreement. Okay? All right. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. I hate this internet company.
Switch.
I can't. I signed a binding contract.
For how long?
I'm bound to it for 3 years. I hate this internet company.
Switch.
I can't. I signed a binding contract.
For how long?
I'm bound to it for 3 years. I hate this internet company.
Switch.
I can't. I signed a binding contract.
For how long?
I'm bound to it for 3 years.